Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing? I hope you're having a really, really good Friday morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it is where you are. Welcome to this English lesson about driving. I think you will enjoy it. I hope you will enjoy it. It's a great collection of phrases that Mohd Ags actually sent to me a couple of weeks ago. So I put the lesson together from his notes. So hopefully he pops in at some point and we can thank him for that. Let me see if everything is working properly. It looks like it is. Awesome. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about driving. I'm not sure if you own a car or if you sometimes rent a car, but driving is something that most humans do at some point in their lives. If you don't drive a car, I'm sure you've ridden in a car at some point in your life. In this English lesson, I'll talk about a whole bunch of different things that you might experience when you are driving. These are things that might happen on your way to work. They might happen on your way to school. It might be something that you see or notice when you are driving. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about driving. As I mentioned, this lesson is from Mohd Ags. I'm not sure if Mohd will pop in today, but if Mohd shows up, please give a big thank you. It was awesome to have a lesson, notes for a lesson sent to me, and I could quickly put it together. Also, if you see the pinned comment, the pinned comment is a link to Brent from Speak English with This Guy. He's doing a very similar lesson tomorrow. Different words, but similar topic. Okay, so if you have a chance, I think that lesson is tomorrow morning, my time. So the link is over there in the chat. Follow that link and watch that tomorrow as well. Maybe click the notify me button on Brent's lesson so that you see it. Even if I teach 25 or 30 words and phrases, and if Brent's lesson overlaps slightly, we don't think it does, but if it overlaps slightly, it will be good review anyways. But it sounds like he will teach you even more words about driving and things you will see when you are on the road. Anyways, hello to everyone in the chat. Hi to Lolly Lolly. Hi to Filippo, Key Park. Freddie Wolf is here too. Oliviero, Peter, Ricardo, Renata. Unsel is here. I saw Unsel earlier. Irina, Linda, Kevin. Scrolling back. Let's see here. Brent from Speak English with This Guy says, I am a good driver. I've only ever been in one accident while I've been in the car. I was in another accident when I wasn't in the car. Ah, yes. There you go. I was in another accident when I wasn't in the car. Interesting. Maybe he'll tell you about that tomorrow. That'll be a little story Brent will maybe share during his live stream tomorrow. Let's see. I think I've said hi to everyone. Please use the chat to have fun English conversations about driving or about other things. Please use the link, the form, to ask a question if you have a question. And that will keep things nice and orderly. But I think we should get this lesson about driving started. What do you think? Let's get it started. Traffic jam. So this is the first thing I'm going to talk about. Luckily, I live in an area where I don't experience this very often. But sometimes when I go to the city, sometimes when I go to Toronto, I end up in a traffic jam. A traffic jam is a situation where traffic is either moving very slowly or traffic is not moving at all. Maybe there's an accident up ahead. Maybe one of the lanes of the highway is closed and everyone has to merge into one lane. Traffic jams can be very, very frustrating. You really have to pay attention when you are in a traffic jam so that you know when to go and when to stop, because you don't want to cause another car accident. When you are in a traffic jam, we also use the phrase stuck in traffic. Sometimes when you go to a meeting, when I go to a meeting in the city, sometimes I'm late because I was stuck in traffic. So you can see this gentleman here is not very happy. He is stuck in traffic. You can see the lady in the car beside him is checking her watch because she's probably going to be late for work or late for an appointment because she is stuck in traffic. No one is happy when they're stuck in traffic. Okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe you can listen to your favorite music or listen to an English podcast when you're stuck in traffic. Maybe that would make you happy. We also use the term stop and go. When you say that you are in stop and go traffic, it means exactly that. The traffic stops, and then the traffic goes, and then the traffic stops, and then the traffic goes, and then the traffic stops, and then the traffic goes. It's very similar to being in a traffic jam. It's the same thing. Stop and go traffic can be very, very frustrating as well. Jen and I went on a trip last fall, and the GPS said there was an accident ahead, but we didn't get off the highway, and we ended up in stop and go traffic for an hour. We also describe, it's a lot of phrases for traffic jams, isn't it? We describe it as bumper to bumper traffic. So the bumper is what you have on the front and the back of a car. The piece that if you were to hit another vehicle, you would hit bumpers, okay? It's kind of the plastic, rubber, or metal piece on the front and back of a car. So when we say it is bumper to bumper traffic, we mean that people are almost touching, okay? So you could say, oh, I was late for work yesterday because I was in bumper to bumper traffic for an hour. It took forever to get to work. So it's very similar to stop and go for sure. And then this is something that some people experience when traffic is bad, or when another driver does something that makes you a little bit frightened or afraid or angry. And it's called road rage. Road rage is when you get angry. I know I mentioned the emotion of fear, but road rage is really about anger. Maybe you're driving along and someone almost hits you and you get angry. Maybe you're in traffic, you're stuck in traffic, you're in bumper to bumper traffic for so long, you just get more and more frustrated and eventually you get angry. We call this road rage. Sometimes road rage results in someone committing a crime. Sometimes on the news, you'll hear that someone drove their car and hit someone else's car because they were so angry. They had road rage. So, not a good emotion to have. If you are driving and you are getting angry, it's probably a good idea just to pull over and to relax a little bit. Have a cup of tea, enjoy the nice spring air, and then get back on the highway after you have calmed down. So a couple times a day, we have something called rush hour, because a lot of people start work at the same time in the morning or around the same time, and people get off work around the same time. There's more traffic. So between 7 and 9 a.m. is rush hour. It's when most people are driving on the highways. It's when you're most likely to experience a traffic jam or to get stuck in traffic. Also between probably 3:30 and 6 o'clock at night is rush hour again. It's when everyone is going home. So in English, rush means to do something quickly. You know, when I rush through my lesson, I talk really fast. So rush hour is when everyone's trying to get to work and when everyone's trying to get home again. Jen and I try to drive when it's not rush hour if we need to go on the highway or if we're going through or to the city. It's just better to drive when no one is on the highway. In fact, there's something called to beat the rush. Sometimes on a Friday, people will leave work. They'll come into work really early in the morning and they'll try and leave work. You see this one vehicle, there's only one vehicle going one way and a couple vehicles in a moment going the other way. These people probably left work early to beat the rush. I knew someone who lived here and taught at a high school in Toronto. And he would leave at 4 a.m. to go to work to beat the rush. And he would finish his school day at 2 o'clock and leave to beat the rush. So when you try to beat the rush, it means you leave early. Some people do this when they go and watch a sports game. They'll leave the game before it's over to beat the rush. Sometimes you'll see people on TV leaving the arena or stadium and the game's not over, but they want to beat the rush. They want to leave before everyone else leaves. And then this is the thing you don't want to have happen. You do not want to get into a car accident. We sometimes call it a car crash or just a crash. A car accident is when one car hits another car. You can see these two gentlemen, they have just been in a car accident. It looks like the older gentleman rear-ended the younger gentleman. When you hit a car from behind, I don't have this word in the vocabulary list, but it looks like he rear-ended that person. A car accident is not a nice thing. Thankfully, cars are much safer these days. I think because of airbags and because of how cars are designed, you're less likely to get injured in a car accident. But certainly, a car accident is not a nice experience, especially if you get hurt. So hopefully none of you have any car accidents in the future or ever. Hey, let's have a look at some questions from this lesson. Let me get a sip of water. Let me read some of the chat. A lot of people saying hi. Let's see here. Oh, my glasses are tangled. There's another word for you. My glasses were tangled with my headphones. Let me make sure everything's working. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, here we go. Renata. Hi, Renata. Hello, Bob. I have no question about today's topic. I just want to say thank you because this lesson is quite useful for me. Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day. Well, you're welcome. And don't forget to thank Mohd Ags the next time you see Mohd for this lesson as well. From Saleh. Hello, Teacher Bob. Allow me to say today is Eid al-Fitr among Muslims, the holiday after Ramadan. Oh yeah, Ramadan has ended. Greetings and congratulations to everyone. And we say to them, Eid Mubarak. I hope I'm saying that properly. Let's see. The next question is from Face Graduation Hat. How often do you do donuts when you are driving your car? So when it snows, sometimes I'll go to a parking lot and drive in circles and the car will slide. The back end of the car will drift around and we call those donuts. Although with a front wheel drive car, you have to do them backwards. So yes, sometimes I do donuts in an abandoned parking lot when it first starts to rain. From Yarrow is late today. Hi, Yarrow. Morning, the wisest Teacher Bob. I am not good at driving. What should I do? And by the way, what cars do you prefer automatic or mechanical transmission? Thanks. So we call it manual transmission or standard. That's the two words in Canada. So automatic, you just put it in drive and you don't have to think. If you have a standard or manual transmission, you have to use the clutch with your foot and you need to shift gears. Excuse me. So what should you do if you're not good at driving? Practice or hire a driving instructor. In Canada, when kids turn 16, they get their beginners. That's their learner's permit. So they can drive if there's an adult in the passenger seat. But often parents will hire a driving instructor to teach them how to drive. And they do that for adults as well. So look into that. Maybe that would be helpful. From Rustum. Hello, Bob. Nice to see you. What do you think about vehicle like a bicycle in Canada? I think bikes are cool. If I lived in the city, I would probably bike to work. There are bike lanes in most large cities in Canada, so I would probably bike to work. I would probably do that to save gas, but a bike can also be faster in the city. If you only need to go 7 or 8 or 9 blocks to work, it's probably faster to just ride your bike for sure. Let's see. From Peter. Hello, Teacher Bob. Good morning. My question. What is the difference, little fix there, between traffic jam and stuck in traffic? Thank you. Have a good day. They are the same thing. There's a lot of ways to describe that in English. Bumper to bumper traffic, stuck in traffic, a traffic jam. They are all the same things. It simply refers to when traffic stops moving or is moving very, very slowly when you are on the highway. Not an enjoyable time at all. Let's see here. Yaroslav says, thanks, Bob. Made my day. No problem. A lot of people saying hi to each other. Eugene is there. Eugene, I didn't get a chance to look at your videos. Sorry, I did see the email this morning, but I was running late. I didn't have time to incorporate them, but thank you for sending them. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get back to the lesson. If I seem a bit rushed today, I do have to leave a tiny bit earlier than normal. I think we should be fine, though. Let's see here. Okay, what were we on? So you have to watch this video clip for a bit. This guy is going to run over the curb. You see how he went off the road, and he's going to run over the grass, and he's going to run over the curb. In English, when you say that someone runs over something, if you run over something with your car, it means it goes under your car. You can run over garbage. You can run over a pop can. You can accidentally run over animals or people. I don't want to talk about that. But whenever you see something on the road ahead, let's say there's, what did I run over the other day? Someone threw a pop bottle out of the car, and then I ran over the pop bottle, so past tense. So when you're driving, you don't want to run over anything. You want to be careful. But this guy, for some reason, he is, if you watch him, he will run over the grass. Right now, as soon as you see, right now, he is going to run over the grass, and then he kind of ran over the curb as well. This you never want to have happen, and I could not find a video of this actually happening. It's very, very dangerous. But if you are in a head-on collision, or if you hit someone head-on, it means the fronts of both cars hit each other. This technically isn't quite a head-on collision because the cars, they're not quite lined up, the toy cars. So generally a head-on collision is when someone coming from the other way hits you and the fronts of both cars hit. It is probably the most dangerous type of accident. If you are in a head-on collision, you will most likely be injured, or it will be very, very serious indeed. But definitely when you're out driving, you want to drive carefully, you want to drive cautiously, and you want to avoid getting into any kind of collision, especially a head-on collision. Sometimes, though, you just get into what's called a fender bender. If you look at the dent in this car, the dent is kind of on the bumper, but also around the side of the car. It's also part of the fender. So the bumper is the piece along the front. The fender is the piece around the wheels on the side. And when you have an accident that's somewhat minor, where no one's really injured, but your car gets a dent in it, we call it a fender bender. It rhymes, so it's kind of a fun word to say. I was in a fender bender once. It was my own fault, though. I turned too sharp, and I kind of hit another car. But yes, a fender bender. So often if you say to someone, oh, I got in a small accident on the way to work, and if someone says, did anyone get hurt? And you might say, no, it was just a fender bender. You might even say minor, just a minor fender bender. Minor means like not that big of a deal. So I couldn't find a good video of this, but when you cut someone off, if you watch the black truck right there, so he's not really close enough to the video, to the car in the video, but when you cut someone off, it means you pass them and then you move in front of them really quickly and you don't leave very much space. Let me stop this video. It's going a little too quickly. This person, it's not a good example, but I would say the black vehicle has cut off I think it's a Tesla, isn't it? This is a Tesla. So when you have two vehicles and one moves in front really, really quickly without much space between the two vehicles, we would say that you cut someone off. Cut off. And then this is not a great example either. This is someone who is tailgating. When you tailgate someone, it means you follow them and you're really, really close to them. So it's different than bumper to bumper. So when you tailgate, it means you're driving, you're moving along, and the one vehicle is right behind the other vehicle. So when you tailgate someone, you follow someone with your car and you follow them too closely. run a red light. So I had to edit this video a little bit. It was actually, I don't know if you can see my elite video editing skills. It was actually the original video. It was a green light. So I changed it to a red light. I put a red dot on it. When you run a red light, it means that you go through a light that's red. Okay. So you're driving along. Sorry, just one sec. So anyways, sorry for that pause. You run a red light. It means that you're driving along and you see a stoplight and it's red and you're supposed to stop. In Canada, when you see a red light, you're supposed to stop. But if you go through it, we say that you are running a red light. You should never run a red light. It is a bad idea. So don't run a red light. Always a bad thing to do. And this is something you should never do. This is extremely dangerous. This is very, very bad, and it's called drunk driving. If you do this, you endanger the life of other people. If you do this, it means you are consuming beverages that have alcohol in them, and you are not capable of driving safely. Don't ever do this. It is illegal in almost every country in the world, and it is not a good thing to do. And if you do this and you get caught, you will probably get a DUI, which means driving under the influence, or it might be a DWI in your country, driving while intoxicated. But certainly in Canada, there are severe punishments for this. You will lose your license. You might even go to jail if you hurt someone. So when you back out, when you are in a driveway and you back out of the driveway, it means that your car is facing your house and you are going in reverse. So if you are in a driveway and you back out of the driveway, you are going backwards. Just one moment, please. Let me just check something here. I've never done this before during a lesson, so give me one sec. Sorry, my bad. It's rare that I have to actually check something, but let me just double check something. I think we're good. Sorry about that. A brief pause. Has that happened during a Bob the Canadian live stream ever? I don't think so. Let's get back to the lesson. Natalia says, Bob disappeared. Yes. Sorry, I could hear talking, so I went to see if someone was talking. It was distracting me a little bit. Anyways, if you're in a driveway and you go in reverse, we say that you back out. So this is the opposite then of to pull into. When you pull into your driveway, you're on the road and you've decided to go into the driveway in front of your house. So you pull into your driveway. If you're in your driveway and you decide to leave, you back out of your driveway. But in this situation, you can see this person has decided to pull into their driveway. So they pull into their driveway, park their car, get out, get their groceries out, etc., etc. So if you are facing away from your house, you can pull out of your driveway, or you can pull out. You can use both versions of the verb. So when I park my car, I will often back in, and then I will pull out when I'm ready to leave. It's just an easier way to do it. I like parking this way because then I don't have to think too much when I leave my house. Sometimes when you back out of your driveway, you have to look in your mirrors, and it's a little trickier. But when you pull out of your driveway, or when you pull out, you can see where you're going and you can drive forward. So just a quick review again. When you back out, you go backwards. When you pull into, you drive into your driveway. And when you pull out of your driveway, it means you're driving out. Sometimes when you're driving along the road, you will see these. These are pylons. When you see pylons, you know there is most likely construction happening somewhere. So when you're driving along and you see pylons, you know that there's construction ahead. You should slow down. In Canada, they are always orange. Or mostly they're orange. They are always orange. So when you're driving along and you see pylons, you know that you need to stop, or at least slow down so that you don't hit something or don't do something that would endanger other people. So if you're driving along and you see a pylon, you know that you should be more cautious with your driving. Parallel parking. So I don't have a video for this one. It was very hard to find one. I couldn't find one. But when you parallel park, you are in the city and you are driving along and you can back your car into a parking spot. So you have a car, you back your car into a parking spot and you park. I think it's called parallel parking because you start by pulling up beside someone and then you back beside them. So when you start, your cars are parallel to each other. This is something that was very difficult for me to learn. It's very hard for me to learn how to parallel park. So I did eventually learn how to do it, but I usually look for a parking spot where I don't have to parallel park, where I can just drive in and not have to think about it. And this is something that is illegal almost everywhere in the world. It's called double parking. This is something you do when you park beside someone. So you're driving your car and you park, they're already parked on the side of the road, and then you park beside them. So not a nice thing to do. Double parking is illegal. Even if you put your hazard lights on, those are the little flashing lights that are usually amber or orange on the corners of your vehicle. So do not double park. Never a nice thing to do. Hey, let me check one thing. I figured out who was talking. I left the video open on my other computer and I was talking behind me. So I don't think you heard that in the video, but it was quite distracting for me for a little while. Anyways, let me have a sip of water. Brent says, I failed my driving test the first time because of parallel parking. It's a tricky thing to do, parallel parking. And I think most people only do it if they have to. In fact, I forgot to mention, some vehicles automatically parallel park now. You just drive up and push a button and it parallel parks for you. Very, very cool. Okay, we're going to do members only chat. Give me a second here. Oh, are there hearts that fly up on the screen now in the chat? I've never seen that before. That's very, very cool. How does that happen? I see all these hearts flying up. I've never seen that before. Very cool. Thank you. If you're leaving hearts, that's awesome. Let me see here. I need to turn on members only chat. Awesome. Okay. And let me get back over here. So I will answer questions from the form, but I will also answer questions directly from the chat if you are a member. From Lolly Lolly, are you stressed when you drive on ice in the winter? I'm going to add the merci Bob a little bit. So let me explain. I actually like driving on snow sometimes. If it's daytime and there's snow on the road, and if it's a little bit slippery, I don't mind that. It's kind of fun actually. But ice is incredibly dangerous. I do not like driving on ice. When you're driving on snow, you have some control. And usually you have snow tires on your car, which help your tires to grip the ground better. But when you're on ice, it's just too slippery. Ice is too dangerous. So I do not enjoy it. I'm very, very stressed driving on ice. From Fatima, little off topic, but dear teacher, my question is not related to today's topic, so excuse me for that. I want to ask, which is the correct phrase, to latch the door or to lock the door? Here in Canada, we say lock the door. So when I go out, I will lock the door. That's what I will do. So lock the door is the correct way to say it here. Possibly latch the door might be correct in the UK. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, from the chat, we have, in some French cities, double parking is a national play. It's pretty common. Here, it's like, if you double park, you're going to get a ticket really quick. Brent says, yep, I've been pumping the hearts and smiles. Thank you very much. I didn't notice that till I went to the other screen. And then I saw them because on my screen in my software, I don't see them. So very cool. Thank you for all the hearts. It's kind of fun. I should maybe have that up on another screen so I can see it. Key Park says, I can do parallel parking very well. Cool. You've seen videos that I've made in my local town. It's a small town, so we don't usually need to parallel park very often. Let's see here. Lolly says, thanks, Bob. No problem. Wanda says, hi, Teacher Bob. Normally when there is an accident, drivers used to cause a bigger traffic jam, stopping to see and also to take photos. I hate. What do you think? Thanks. We call it rubbernecking. So rubbernecking is when you're driving along on the highway and there's an accident, and then you slow down and look at the accident. So not only does it cause traffic to slow down on the other side, it causes it to slow down on your side as well. Yaroslav, Brent, do you call it rubbernecking where you are too? It's like your neck is made of rubber because you have to look at everything. Yaroslav, thanks for Canadian equivalents for transmission. Every day I become more and more Canadian English speaker. Yeah, slowly but surely. A colleague at work joked that they weren't sure they wanted everyone in the world to speak English the way I do. I speak very, very proper English, by the way. From Brent, speak English with this guy. My wife is great at parallel parking. I do the driving. She does the parking. Good plan. That's a good plan for sure. Let me get another question up on the screen from Ivan. Here we go. Hi, Teacher Bob. I would like to thank you for your hard work and ask you, how do you feel about hybrid cars? Will they save the environment? So I like electric cars, and I don't mind cars that use gas right now. I think we're on track to eventually all have electric cars. I think that's great. But hybrid cars have a gas engine and they have an electric engine. So they're better for the environment, but I'm not sure I want to pay money to have two different drive systems in a car. But that being said, I'll probably buy a hybrid van next time I buy a van because they use less gas. So yes, I think they're great for the environment. I would probably buy one to save money as well. Brent says, yes, rubbernecking for sure. Yep, that's the term we use. Let me back up and get to the end. Freddie says, Bob, are there a lot of cycling lanes in Canada to be safe riding a bicycle? It depends on the city. Cities are trying to accommodate bicycles more and more. Although I did hear on the news, one of the people that wants to be mayor in Toronto wants to get rid of some bike lanes. So I'm not sure if they're going backwards there, if that person gets elected. We'll have to see. From Yehuda, hello, Teacher Bob. What is the speed you usually drive in Canada? In the city, you drive 50 kilometers an hour. On country roads, you drive 80 kilometers an hour. On our highways, you drive 100 or 110 kilometers an hour, depending on what the sign says. Those are the three most common speeds. There are others like 50 or 40 and 60. So you do have to watch the signs. But I would say 50, 80, and 100 are probably the most common, depending on where you are riding or driving. Volodymyr, salam, Teacher Bob, dear teacher. In your country, Canada, your driver's license is temporary or permanent? You need to renew it every so many years. I don't know how often that is. I think every 3 or 4 years you have to pay again. You don't have to take a test, but if you don't pay your renewal fee, if you don't pay your money, your license will expire. And if you get a lot of tickets, your license will be suspended. From Filippo, ho Bob, or hi Bob, do you have cars that have GPL or natural gas for fuel in Canada? Here in Italy, we have a lot of those too. Yes. So my son bought a truck and it has tanks in the back and it can run on either gas or natural gas. It's not super common, but there are people that have vehicles that run on natural gas. From Unsel. Hi, Unsel. Hi, dear teacher Bob. How is it going? At what age did you start driving? Love from Istanbul. Bye. So I got my beginners, or what's also called a learner's permit, at age 16. And then I took something called driver's ed. That means driver's education. So I went to a class for a week where an instructor taught me how to drive. And then I had in-car lessons with an instructor. And then 5 weeks later, I went and got my full driver's license. That's not possible here anymore. Now it actually takes a lot longer. I think it takes a year and a half or a little over a year. Actually, it's, I think 9 months. You can get your beginners and have your full license still when you're 16, but it's not as quick as when I was a kid. From the chat, Eugene says, going to see F1 race in Quebec. Very cool. You're gonna see some pretty fast cars there, Eugene, for sure. Filippo, in some cities in Italy, we have triple parking. Yeah, that's too much for me. I wouldn't be able to handle triple parking. That's too much parking in one spot. From Mikalo, hello, Mr. Teacher Bob. I'd like to ask you, is it expensive to get a driving license and does it work in other countries? Thanks for the answer. Have all the best. So I don't know if it works in other countries. I haven't traveled enough to know that. But I think if I went to Europe, I think I can rent a car with my Canadian license, I'm pretty sure. And is it expensive? Yeah, somewhat. I think it's altogether, it's $100, I think, to get your learner's permit and probably another $100 to do your test. Probably $600 for your driver's ed lessons, your driver's education. So altogether, yes, it does cost a bit of money. From Rocky Tran, hi, Mr. Bob. I'm Rocky from Windsor, Ontario in Canada. Cool. You're that way, about 4 hours drive, 3.5 hours drive. I don't have a question today, so I'd like to thank you so much for your help with all your lessons. You are very, very welcome. Thank you for watching and thank you for following. Let me check something here. Yes, let's get this lesson done. Let me go to members only chat setting and turn it back to subscriber chat setting. There we go. Let me get the slides back on the screen and let's finish this lesson off so I can get to work. Sometimes when you are driving, you need to pull over. Sometimes the police will pull you over. So notice you can decide to pull over. That's when you're on the road and you go onto the side of the road. This person decided to pull over. Sometimes when you're driving, the police will be behind you and you'll hear their siren and light. You'll see their lights and then you need to pull over. And you would then say, the police pulled me over. You don't want to get pulled over, but sometimes you decide to pull over. Do you understand the difference? If I was tired, I would pull over and I would just rest for a bit, maybe get out of the car and stretch a little before I kept driving. If I was speeding, the police might pull me over. In the city, you might see a crosswalk. Usually these are marked with some kind of white lines. A crosswalk is a place where people can walk across the road. Usually there's a light that says they're allowed to walk across, a little person, a little light. And usually there's a stoplight and the light will be red. So a crosswalk is a place where people will cross the road. A crossing guard is someone who helps school-aged children cross the road safely. You can see this crossing guard has a stop sign in their hand, and these children want to cross the road. Kids can cross the road by themselves, but it's much safer when a crossing guard helps them. So usually in the morning and at night when I go to town, there are crossing guards in different places in town to help large groups of kids walk across the road so they can get safely to school. I think it's probably a nice job in the fall and spring, but I think it's probably not as nice in the middle of the winter because they do this every day. Crossing guards are out there every day. But yes, A little stop sign helping kids cross the road. An intersection. By the way, you can see the white lines, which are the crosswalk at this intersection. An intersection is a place where two roads, or maybe more than two roads, cross, or you could say it's where four roads meet, or streets. An intersection is a place where maybe in the city, roads or streets run north-south and east-west, and wherever those roads cross, we would call that an intersection. Usually there are stoplights at an intersection. Sometimes it's just a stop sign, but an intersection is a place where you either go straight or you decide to turn left or right. In Canada, or at least in my part of Canada, we have started to build what's called a roundabout. Roundabouts are places where you don't have to stop if you don't see any traffic. You can kind of just keep going. You always in Canada move to the right and go around the roundabout, and then you get off on the proper road. We just received or got a roundabout in our local town a few years ago, so it took everyone a while to get used to it. I know roundabouts are quite common in some of your countries, but in my area, it was something new for some people. So some people weren't sure how to use it properly. But a roundabout, I like them. I think it actually helps me. I think I can go through that intersection faster now because there is a roundabout. So this is something you should never do. You should never fall asleep while driving. If you are asleep at the wheel, it will cause an accident. But this English phrase is actually used for times when you're not driving. If someone is in charge of a company and things go wrong because they weren't running the company right, someone might say, oh, they were asleep at the wheel. If the government doesn't do something, so when there's inaction, you might say, oh, they were asleep at the wheel. If students, let's say I wasn't paying attention and students snuck out of my classroom when I was looking out the window, later the principal could say, were you asleep at the wheel? So it's not just when you're driving. It can also be any situation where someone isn't paying attention to what they're doing. So literal translation, you fall asleep while driving. Also used as a phrase to describe when someone isn't paying attention when they are in charge. And then we also have another phrase, backseat driver. So if someone sits in the back seat and tells you how to drive, we call them a backseat driver. But we also use this phrase in other situations. Let's say I'm teaching a class and another teacher keeps telling me how to do it. And they're not the teacher. I would say they're a backseat driver. So when you're in charge of something, when you're the leader, and someone who's not the leader keeps telling you how to do your job, we sometimes refer to that person as a backseat driver. Well, hey, that is the lesson on driving. In the chat, I see Yaroslav saying intersection versus crossroad. We use intersection here a lot. We don't use crossroads very often. I am familiar with that. It's when two roads cross. It might be more common in the southern parts of the US, possibly. But here we generally say, just say intersection. It happened at an intersection. There was an accident at an intersection. Okay, let's finish off the questions. And from Natalia, can you say I'm a scooter driver or a bike driver? I drive them. Or is it better to say I use a scooter or a bike? So when you talk about bikes, you ride a bike. So I would say, yes, I bike to work. You might say I cycle to work, but generally you would say I bike to work. You would take the noun and use it as a verb. But with scooter, I would say I took my scooter to work. I'm going to ride my scooter home. That's how I would say those two. I rode my scooter to work. I'm going to ride my scooter home later today. David, hello, Teacher Bob. Thank you for this lesson. I'd like to ask you if in Canada, is it illegal to drive? I'm fixing a few things while you talk with someone on your cell phone. Yes. If you are holding your cell phone, that is illegal. If you are texting, that is illegal. I think if you have hands-free, if it's on speakerphone, I think you are allowed to do it. From Aziz, hello, Mr. Bob. How are you doing, sir? My question is, which side do you drive on in Canada? The right side or the left side? Thank you, and God bless you. We drive on the right side. When I pull out of my driveway or when I back out of my driveway, when I go on the road, I go on the right side of the road. We go to pass people. If someone's driving slow, I go around them on the left, but we drive on the right side of the road. I went to South Africa and I had to drive on the left side of the road, and it felt very strange to sit on the other side of the vehicle and to drive on what I thought or still think is the wrong side of the road. Well, hey, thanks for watching, everyone. I do have to get going. I know it's only 1:15. Thank you so much. Remember, this lesson will come out in a shorter version in a couple of days. I'll edit out the times where I was stomping on the floor because I thought someone was talking. But do rewatch it to reinforce what you have learned. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope that you take some time. If you look at the pinned comment, please click that and make a note, or click the notify button that Brent will be doing a lesson on a similar topic, a related topic. Maybe a few words overlap, maybe not. You'll learn some more things about driving and the things you'll see on the road. But yeah, do head over to Brent's channel to watch that as well. New video coming out Tuesday, and all of the same normal things will be happening on my channel. So anyways, have a great day, and see you Tuesday. And there'll be a live lesson next week again, of course. But what is it? It's not quite May yet, though. So just Friday, live lesson Friday. Bye, everybody.